Hey scoundrels, what's going on? Welcome to the channel. I hope you're all doing incredibly well. If you'd like to be a scoundrel, there is a subscribe button, and little fairy told me that hitting that subscribe button will grant you one wish, as long as that wish is I want to be part of Excoundrel's subscriber base. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about Corp Warfare, and I've had my very first taste of a 300-person battle in a corp. So I'm going to set the scene for you. I am part of a corp called Valhalla, and we are part of an alliance called the Golden Horde. We were approached by a Chinese alliance, I believe IDX, or the corp name was IDX, who asked us if they could help, or we could help, increase their numbers versus another Chinese corporation and alliance that were planning on fighting them. So we are in Southeast Nullsec. We were interested in making some more allies in the area, and we said yes. We said to this Chinese corp, we were like, yep, we will come and help you out. We'll join your alliance fight, but we won't like commit any huge ships. We'll just bring a lot of people in very small ships. So our corp leaders said to us in Valhalla, bring a really bad ship and essentially join the fight. So what you can see here is currently I am at the gate with the rest of my alliance. So this is everybody that's in my alliance right now, and we are at a gate, and we are warping to a sort of a, what's the word I'm looking for, like a meet location outside a planet. So we warped to a meet location outside the planet, and what happens is your fleet leader then asks you to group up on your fleet commander. So you can see a lot of these little triangles there. These are all ships. I've had to zoom out really far to be able to get a good sort of a view of the actual fight. And what will happen is that the individual fleet commanders ask their fleet to sort of jump up on them and make sure that we are in a good position. And actually what we do then is we also drop a bubble. So we drop a bubble, a shield bubble, and we all like coalesce inside this shield bubble, which you've just seen dropped here. So the shield bubble just went down, and we have all sort of congregating inside this shield bubble, planning the next move. Now, what was happening in the local chat is there was a lot of chatter back and forth between the Chinese enemies and alliances, and we were translating it as we were going to try and figure out where we were supposed to be. And we essentially figured out that the battle was going to take place, I believe, at the sun. So we were essentially grouping up our entire fleet. We were getting in position to warp. And then we essentially said, we are going to head to the sun, and we're going to fight this Chinese alliance with another Chinese alliance that we'd made friends with, and it was just going to be an all-out warfare. I took myself a Condor 2 with really bad fittings, basically because I wanted to speed tank some cruisers or battle cruisers and essentially just try and get some damage down. But you can see here, we are all now aligning towards the sun. You can see the corp going out in one big snake line as we continue to align. We continue to sort of group up and set our expectations for going out. I thought we were actually warping there. I forgot at which point this the fight was. But essentially, we are just planning. Now, what you'll notice if you're in Corp Warfare is there is a lot of planning. There is a lot of times where you will be kind of with your corp, and your fleet commanders are working out where you need to go and how you're going to attack the situation. So I think we spent around 40 minutes to an hour just planning what was going to happen whilst we figured out exactly where the battle was. And as soon as we figured out where the battle was, we're planning on jumping over there. So I'm going to jump to the battle now, and I am going to show you the battle. I'm going to slow it down a little bit more because right now I'm showing you at 400% speed. So everything that you're seeing on your screen right now is 400% speed. I'm going to slow down the battle ever so slightly because it was very impressive when we jumped into it. So I've just cut ahead a little bit to the warping into the fight, and as you can see, my screen went absolutely insane. When we warped in, people started popping up everywhere. There were shield bubbles being dropped. There were like huge effects on your screen, and I had to essentially go down to PvP enemy and make sure I was including neutrals in that tag as well, because we unfortunately hadn't actually been able to tag the enemy alliance as an enemy, so we were having to just basically choose from the neutral list. I dropped the graphics down to the lowest physically possible, and you can still see that it was lagging like crazy. I had to drop down to low just to be able to render everything. But look at the amount of ships. Everything that is grey grouped up at the top side of the screen, that is the enemy. Everything that is like blue and purple is us. And we all warped in. We broke ranks a little bit. You can see how tightly formed the enemies are. And you can see me scrolling through the grey list, because it's difficult to figure out who was against us and who was with us, because unfortunately the Chinese allies that we had in our side, they were actually grey to us, so we hadn't actually allied them or friendlied them, so we had no idea what was going on. But this was the Corp battle. This is what it looks like. This is probably for the most part how you're going to view Corp battles, because it's more like a top-down RTS style situation where you're trying to figure out where all your fleets are, kind of like trying to figure out where you're sort of the majority of your allies are and where you're trying to be in position. I was just grouped up in the shield bubble for the time being, and then I actually moved forward to join up with my fleet. And we took a more forward position, and you can see I'm slowly targeting things. I couldn't target any of the IDX caracals, but we were looking for things like NC. And so essentially you can see I was on the front lines a little bit here, just trying to figure out where I could get to and actually start killing things. But what mostly happened throughout this Corp War was that everything got killed before I was even able to get there. It was kind of an experience for me. I wasn't really in a very good ship. I was much better equipped to play a longer range ship. And actually my Corp commander did say, make sure you bring a long range ship because we're expecting long range warfare. So I could have brought like a Caracal trainer equipped with medium missiles and likely had a better experience. But I didn't want to commit a huge amount of money to this because I had no idea what was going on. And you can see that my alliance completely split up and essentially went on the offensive. You can see like huge amount of ships like swarming in the enemy, and essentially we completely overran the Chinese Corp, and you can see loads of greys just warping out at the end of the fight here. This was essentially the victory rush. We jumped in, we outnumbered by a massive amount. They had not grouped their forces properly, and we essentially overwhelmed them with numbers with our Chinese allies. But actually, if you look at the number of greys on your screen now, you'll notice that without us, our Chinese allies probably would have really struggled in this fight. They were actually outnumbered by the enemy. So actually, by recruiting us, the Golden Horde, we came in with all of these numbers that you see here. We came in and we absolutely flattened the fight. What actually ended up happening after this is we were just searching for anybody that was either warping in or was left in the system that was an enemy, and then we were then going to then reconvene, either figure out if there was another fight location that we had to jump to, or we were going to move back as a unit and go through a Polish enemy's system and just blow a load of people up. What happened to me, however, is I had to AFK, and I died. But the rest of the fleet ended up going from this position to a Polish system called Corp and blowing up as many ships as they could before returning home. So we actually got a little return fleet gank on the way home. But this was kind of what Corp Warfare looks like. It was my first experience, and I kind of wanted to make a little video just to show you what a large-scale Corp Warfare battle looks like. Clearly, there is so much going on the screen that you kind of have to work off your overview more so than anything else. You can see I'm sort of... We actually had a last-minute bamboozle where a corp that we thought was part of our alliance actually turned on us and started shooting us with stabbers at very long range. So we actually flattened them as well and forced them to warp out. So we had a little bit of a bamboozle right at the end of the Corp Warfare, but it was a very interesting experience. You definitely have to be very good at using your overview, because as you can see, for the most part, you're probably not going to be able to zoom in too much. You have to really look at sort of macro fleet movements and movements around the system more so than anything else. But I had a really good time, like just being part of something bigger, just seeing a battle in action. It was really interesting, and it just shows you the scale of Corp Warfare that probably is going to be capable of, in EVE Echoes. Very, very exciting stuff, and I'm hoping for more in the future. And if you want to join the Valhalla Alliance, they are recruiting. I'll put a link in the description.